Testing, 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 testing. Oh boy. Well, we're waiting for MarcTheCyborg to get here. I just sent him a link. He should be here soon. We were supposed to talk about this last week, but I had the flu, so we'll probably talk about episode 2 tonight as well. But we're talking about the last. I have to mute my thing again. Um. Anyway, so chat, what's going on, everybody? No, I didn't play part 2 of The Last of Us. I don't even really love part 1. I guess we'll talk about that also. While we're waiting for Mark, though, I'm going to pull this up for a second because it's kind of it just happened on Twitter and it's kind of insane. Let me pull this up. Let me see if I can find it. Present, share screen, window. So MrBeast just did a video about curing blind people. He did. He cured a bunch of blind people. He paid for their surgeries. Check this out. Okay, this is what his we'll read this first because he just tweeted this out. Twitter, rich people should help others with their money. Okay. Me, okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give away all my money before I die. Every single penny. Twitter, MrBeast is bad. Now, it's funny because this is what he's referring to. Well, not just this dumbass, but a lot of people on Twitter. So Surfs TV comes out today and says, people are honestly praising MrBeast again. The guy does poverty tourism for cash. If he pays a person's medical bills, lottery style, without informing anyone with his platform that it's fucked, he needs to do that. Oh, that it's fucked that he needs to do that. He is just profiting off his ability to do so. This take is wild. Okay, this is insane. Mark's here, by the way. I'll bring him in in 1 second. But this is this is a far left Marxist commie Twitter YouTuber, the Surfs, if you don't know. But there's so much wrong with this. Okay, let me bring in Mark, and then I'll go to my tweet. Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. Did you see this today?
I kind of caught what you were talking about it a minute ago. What's going on with MrBeast? Like, Surfs is like
he spent
go
millions of dollars to cure a bunch of blind people.
what
And
an asshole.
yeah, like a horrible person. What a Nazi. Anyway, and then the Surfs comes out and says that he's cringe and he's doing poverty tourism or like poverty porn or something. And then he said that he needs to come out on his platform and describe why that it's fucked up that he has to do that. First of all, he did. He said this on Twitter. He said, I don't understand why curable blindness is a thing. Why don't governments step in and help? Even if you're thinking purely from financial standpoint, it's hard to see how they don't return on investment on taxes from people being able to work again.
Yeah, and that's
So
a very solid point.
it's a solid point. And he said that, and then the people are lying that he's not using his platform to talk about why it's kind of annoying that blind people can't get these surgeries. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. This is the new meta on Twitter. You're supposed to roast and cancel rich people who now, okay, the old meta was cancel rich people who hoard their money. Okay. Now they're not hoarding their money anymore, right? Elon Musk, didn't he like give up all his possessions and he lives in like a tiny home now or something? That definitely happened. He said that on Joe Rogan. But now they're giving money, all of it away to people that need it desperately, and it's still not enough.
Yeah, I don't see how anyone can be against someone doing that. Like, I mean, just saying something like lottery style, it's like, I mean, yeah, I can't afford to cure everyone.
Oh, and exactly. And you
How
know
many
what he
people have
said?
you cured, Surfs?
And not only that, he said this under the tweet. He said it did raise awareness and get tons of people talking. Also, what profits? The average MrBeast video lost $1.5 million last year. He's said this many times, where a lot of his videos will lose money because the amount of money he's spending on his videos is like an astronomical amount, and a lot of it comes from YouTube ads, but a lot of it also comes from big corporate donations, or not corporate, but like just people donating money to him to help for him to make these videos. He gets a lot of donation money.
Mhm.
It's just the dumbest thing ever, man. It's so stupid.
I mean, I can understand someone being like, "Yeah, I don't watch MrBeast content. Like, it's just not really my kind
Yeah,
of
that's
thing."
different.
But saying like he's a bad person for curing blind people, really?
I know, it's so wild. Like they waited till that video to come out. Oh my god. What? It's so funny.
I mean, he
Oh, hi
must have done
Gladiator.
something more vapid in the last 3 years that
Yeah,
that you could have gone after instead.
that's exactly. Thanks for the $5 Gladiator. We need you back on Flashcast. Show's not the same without the contrarian. I'd love to come back, buddy. That would be fun. It's not up to me though. Um, and let's see what else we got here. We got Flaccid in the chat. Hi Shelby, what's going on? We're talking about The Last of Us tonight, and we're probably going to cover 2 episodes. I don't know how long I can stream. Maybe like an hour, or a little bit more than that.
It's a work night, so if it needs to be a short
Yeah.
one, that's cool.
So, oh boy, guys. The Last of Us episode 3 kind of hit the internet like by storm. A lot of people are talking about it. What did you? Well, okay. I want to pull this up quick. This is what we're dealing with. Okay. Let me remove that one. Hold on. I'm sharing my screen here. Gonna go to IMDb. Oh, I thought I had it open. Hold on. All right, let me pull this up. All right. So this past episode has like a 9.3 user rating. Very, very high. Do you know what the other one had? The episode 2 and 1?
I have no idea. I haven't checked an IMDb user rating on anything other than my own movie in a very long time. Oh, my own movie and The Last Jedi, mostly because I wanted to see if my own movie could climb above The Last Jedi, and I don't think it has.
Or
but
Velma.
I think it's above Velma. I think I'm at like a 6.6. Like
Nice.
it's not bad, but you know.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people that like this this episode, and it surprised me because it's not really from the game.
Not at all.
But
It,
how?
like,
But
it
yeah,
has to exist in a different timeline.
yeah, and well, the shows
I mean, yeah, it
adaptations
does.
always exist in different timelines, but yeah, I mean, this is. I'm wondering how many people did play the game versus haven't. Like, you know, I don't even know what the percentage.
Behind the
What would the
scenes
split be
or like
of anybody
audience.
watching the show?
I'm gonna say most people have.
Have played the game?
There's probably I'm willing to bet a lot of the terrestrial television viewers are just normies who are like, oh, okay, it's like Walking Dead with the Mandalorian guy and the little
Yeah,
bear girl from the island in Game of Thrones.
yeah.
You know, like I mean, there's probably a bunch of people that just kind of tuned in, but I'm gonna guess that most of the people who are going out of their way to go on IMDb and rate it are probably fans of the game.
Yeah, I guess. I still think there's a lot of normies that don't play games that watch these kinds of shows, like especially The Walking Dead. But I
Maybe,
don't know
yeah.
what the split would. It could be 50-50.
I don't
I don't even know.
think the percentage of people who were familiar with the Walking Dead source material is even close to The Last of
No,
Us.
no, that's true.
Like
That's
Last of
true.
Us, I'm willing to bet most of the audience has played the game, whereas
Yeah.
Walking Dead, it was maybe 30%, 20%.
So if that's the case, then the vast majority of people who played the game don't mind the deviations from this character's story arc.
I mean, but I personally thought that it was better than
Better, yeah, I do too.
like I mean, Bill's purpose in the game is to be kind of a sad like survivalist dude who's kind of gone off the deep end, and I think honestly, no. I mean, this sounds kind of bad because it sounds sort of forced representation-y, but I don't think anyone would have really remembered Bill if he wasn't gay, because that seemed to be the thing that most
Yeah,
people
Bill
remembered
Bill was
about
just
his
there to
story.
like give you ammo and resources, right?
Yeah,
That's
and be
about
like,
like
"Yeah, get out of here now." Like he wasn't really very compelling in the actual game itself,
yeah.
and most of why people talked about him was like, "Oh yeah, if you look in his notes, it says something about this guy Frank and Ellie finds like Playgirl
Well,
magazine or something in his under his bed."
well, didn't Frank hang himself in the game though? I saw a cutscene of it
Yeah,
last
yeah.
night. I
Oh,
was
well, I
watching it.
mean, the game pans out totally different because Bill's alive when Ellie and Joel
Yeah,
get there in the game, and I mean, it has been a little bit since I played the game, but I'm pretty sure he's alive when they leave too. Like,
yeah.
I don't think Bill dies in the game, does he?
I don't
I don't
remember
remember
what
him dying
happens
at
to
the very
Bill.
least.
I forgot to retweet
I
my own
played it
stream.
about 2 years ago when I made that video on Days Gone and Last of Us 2, but, I don't know, I don't really remember. That's the thing, Bill wasn't a very memorable character to me. I mostly remember him as the dude that people talked about as like, "Oh, yeah, if you read the journals, turns out he's gay."
Yeah,
But, like, I
yeah.
mean, this version of it, though, I think for the format change, if you're changing it to a narrative format where primarily you're telling the story with dialogue, right? Like this isn't there
Look,
was one action scene in this episode and it was
yeah,
very minimalist, right?
yeah, it was, and that's a good point. That if you adapt a game, you can't always adapt a game. Neil Druckmann. Now, I recommend people watch the HBO podcast that recaps every episode. It's actually pretty interesting. But Druckmann said himself that they couldn't have done this storyline the way they did in the game because it was largely player driven. Like you
Yeah.
participating in the story and killing a bunch of people alongside Bill, and it's just a lot of the times when you're playing a game, you can't just adapt the gameplay to screen. You have to make changes. He didn't want to make a change though.
You ever
He
play
did not
Gone
want to
Home?
change this. What happened, I'll just clear this up quick. What
Uh,
happened was the writer of the show pitched this idea to him. And he says in the HBO podcast, he says that he didn't want to do it because he doesn't like changing the fate of any character. Okay. That's what he said. But he said that after the story was pitched to him and the way it was, he said that he thought that the pros would outweigh the cons in this one like specific situation, and he
yeah, I
talks
think
about
they did.
why, and I think it does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Also,
honestly
yes,
think that's
everybody,
safe to
yes,
say.
yes, they're gay. They're gay in this show. Okay,
They were
they're
gay
gay
in
in
the
the
game
games as
too.
well. It's hinted at,
At least gay,
but
by the way.
okay, I'm not. I have gay friends. I don't care if that's the
That's a
if
critical
that's.
drinker joke. It's
Oh, I
his Last of Us 2 video, every like 3 sentences, he's just like, "Ellie's gay, by the way."
oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it depends on how you do it. I mean, if it's like if you're taking a character who's not gay and then forcing them to be gay or something, you know what I mean? Like you got to be nuanced about this stuff. It's like, if I say that I thought this was really well done and it was nuanced and almost perfect, that doesn't mean that I'm pro gay insertion in every single piece of media. That's like you please be
It
more
wasn't
nuanced than that.
him being gay was faithful to the source material.
Exactly. It was
They
also
would have had to
faithful.
insert a wife.
Yes. And in this HBO show, I would pull it up, but or this podcast, but it's I don't know if I'll be able to find it or play the audio correctly. But he basically says that the even more important than them being gay was that they were middle aged and that they were
Mhm.
aging because
Blame them.
Druckmann and the writer both were focused heavily on that middle-aged aspect of like basically like love, not romance, because the romance is like that bud, that home that what's it called? Honeymoon phase, right?
The first scene,
But
with
like
them.
how does love play out over time and like later in life? How do you deal with certain tragedies? And then in an apocalyptic world, what happens when you're the only two people that are alive and you have to deal with your own feelings towards one another. It's very, very, very deep and relevant, completely relevant to the story in every single way. Thematically, it's relevant to how Joel and Ellie, like their relationship, especially with that letter at the end of the episode. It's very relevant, very relevant. But what do you think, Mark?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I've seen some people just claim, yeah, it's kind of a basic bitch Walking Dead kind of episode. Where it's like, yeah, gay couple, guess what? They're in the apocalypse and they kill themselves. Spoilers, I guess. Sorry.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
But I'm just like, well, I thought it was done pretty well though. And I think that in a way to have Bill function in the story in a way that's like, hey, here's a little short film about Bill and his life and how he fit into
Yep.
really Joel and Tess's lives. And I think that the idea of being like,
Or the
hey,
world, the whole world, because this is
mhm,
like an international story. I mean, it's not a story, but it's an international event. And how do they fit into the lives, the world building aspect of like, oh, what happens if this is like a what if episode almost, you know what I
yeah.
mean? And I thought that was cool to have that.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been saying this about Druckmann
Oh,
for a
sorry,
little bit
spoilers.
now. And sorry.
We're gonna get into spoilers, guys. If you
Oh, I
don't
mean,
want spoilers, that's
yeah.
okay.
Sorry. I guess I sort of already made
No,
a
that's
big
okay.
one.
I figured most people had seen it.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, they even if you say the ending, there is a scene earlier on that might actually keep you on your toes about that. But anyways,
Yeah.
uh, I think that the version of Bill that they did served the characters well in that it gave you a look at who Tess and Joel were to
Yes.
the world around Boston. Not
Yep.
just like the kind of shady dudes or the Fedra military people or the Fireflies that are all kind of their own factions, but like what were their friends like? And I think the friendship, or you could call it, or acquaintanceship, I suppose, between Bill and Joel was really subtle and
Yeah, it was
understandable.
I
Like
liked it.
yeah, it was really good. It was like,
It
yeah,
was so it was a
and
little
the
yeah.
letter kind of sums it up. We're like, I don't really like you, but I guess we're friends. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I
like such a
respect you.
bro it was such like a bro relationship. Just like, "You know
Take my
what? I
supplies.
don't trust you. I wanna point a gun at you," and then Joel's like, "I'm gonna tell you to go fuck yourself, and then but we're still gonna be cool."
Yeah,
I thought it was really nice.
I thought writing the laugh into the letter was funny too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That, like, he was like, "Yeah," he laughed at his own joke and he had to write,
Yeah.
"Ha ha ha ha," and then Ellie read
Yeah.
it, and
The subtle humor is good.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm not even a huge fan of Belle Ramsey so far, but I
yeah.
thought that the way she read the letter was pretty solid, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I didn't find her read of that laugh to be cringy, and, like, you figure that kinda line could really backfire, like, it could come off
Of
as
course it
very,
could.
like, Marvel humor-ish, but it really seemed like this is
Natural.
Bill just trying to throw a little bit of levity and personality and
Yeah.
what's essentially a suicide letter, but it's also like,
It's
"Hey."
dark
Yeah.
humor. It's
Mhm.
dark humor. I mean, don't he said don't open. By the way, guys, so the spoilers, if you haven't seen it, I'll just summarize it quick. Bill from the game meets a character named Frank. Bill is Bill is a Second Amendment American conservative um isolated
He's a New England
prepper
prepper.
prepper survivalist he calls himself. And you know what? I was so happy that they didn't politicize his character and try to preach
Yeah.
how about how those kinds of people are toxic or anything like that. They didn't do they didn't even approach that conversation. They gave him such a nuanced character and performance, and I thought it was really, really, refreshing to see. I haven't seen that in a long time in Hollywood. Um, and you know what I mean? Like, even the beginning was like almost like they were celebrating his lifestyle because it was kinda badass. They
Yeah.
had badass music playing and everything.
Well, I was gonna say the premise of how
Yep.
they sort of set up his, you could say, origin story, like how Bill's town came to be. And it
Yep.
was just okay. He was the prepper dude who, when Fedra would come through and clear things, he'd hide in his like bunker and
Yeah.
would bide his time until he was pretty sure that they weren't going to come anymore, and then started clearing out the area around him,
Yeah,
put
and
up some
cooking
fence,
food and building
and he's
electric
like, "Yeah,
fences.
okay, yeah, I've made myself a good little perimeter. I've got some
It
space,
was it
tons
was
of
so much
traps."
like I've
Like,
played the you ever play State of Decay? It just kinda
no, actually,
it
I'm
gave
aware
me
of it though.
it just gave me the same feeling of playing State of Decay. The first, like, 5 minutes of his storyline. The first 10 minutes of the show is about Ellie and Joel, but when we get to the flashback, that was so it's just cool to watch, man. I wanted more of that. But we needed to get into that meeting with Frank because it was super essential to that whole character arc and that this story. And Frank is a gay man trying to navigate a post-apocalyptic world, and it's interesting. It's like I don't have anything against gay people. Again, this is not, to me, this felt like a character who happens to be gay in a show about an apocalypse. Like it was so naturally, especially the fact that they didn't change and make these characters gay. They were gay to begin with in the game, and it's like it just felt so natural to me. It's just like, well, what would you do if you if you come across or if you were, imagine if it was a straight relationship and you came across a girl who you thought was cute or interesting, and she was holding you, at gunpoint, and then you were like, well, what do I do? How do I navigate this? Or you know what I mean? Like it just kind of felt like a natural little bit of uh tension between two people that were feeling each other out. Um, I thought it was really well acted. The acting is incredible.
Yeah, Nick Offerman, honestly, his take on Bill was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. He's almost um like kind of simple in a way. Like he plays it like he's
Yeah,
childlike and innocent in a
childlike.
way that yeah, like survivalism is all he's ever really known.
Hmm.
And like he's been alone for so long, and like it seems like he was only ever with one girl and maybe didn't know too much about his sexuality. And I think that
Yeah,
them setting up the premise that the care he has for the dinner, and like the how specific he is about the wine that he chooses is kind of the thing that gives Frank the indication that's like,
yeah.
oh, okay, this guy might be on the same team.
Well, no, now
And
they talked about this in the HBO podcast, post-show podcast.
mhm,
Troy Baker asked them, when was the moment when Frank knew that that Bill was gay, and the writer said that you could pick up on various different hints, but the writer said that it was when he got up out of the hole in the ground, and he was holding him at gunpoint still,
mhm.
and there was like a brief moment of silence where um, Bill was kind of looking at Frank in a way that, like, he was kind of eyeing him up a little bit, and it was only a few seconds, but apparently, like, I don't know. He said that they talk to a lot of gay men in situations where it's difficult to tell if another man is into you because it's like such a small portion of the
Yeah.
population. It's like, well, they have to kind of be looking for certain cues, and that was one of them. It was like it was him just kind of looking him up and down, holding him at gunpoint, wondering if he should shoot him or let him go or not, or invite him back. And it was like that's when he picked up on the possibility of it. And then they got back and started playing piano, and then it kind of escalated.
Well,
But
I think actually it was, for me at least, where or
um,
the line that to me felt believable, and I think a lot of this can be owed to the actor who played Frank's performance, is when Bill says something like, "Oh yeah, like I know I don't seem like the type," and then
yeah,
he's like, "No, you do." And like, I mean, that kind of seemed like like, "Hey, no, like I understand you
yeah,
maybe a bit better than you even think I do," and I think that from there, and obviously the piano playing scene made it like they had sort of a moment,
yep,
and it kind of made sense that, or I mean, because I guess the problem I had with the scene was like, okay, what are the odds that like another relatively age appropriate gay man would be one of the people who falls in the hole? But then, like, as you were kind of saying, like, if he's just a
Yeah.
gay character, like Frank being a gay character who exists in the area and is traveling, falls in the
Yeah.
hole, and we could assume that if he did not pick up on the fact that Bill was attracted to him, he probably would have just had lunch and then left, and that would have been that. So you
Sure.
got to
Sure.
figure maybe if you run into 40 people over the course of, say, I don't know, 5 years of roaming around in the
Yeah.
apocalypse,
It's
chances
not
are one of them is going to
impossible.
be gay.
It's not impossible. And you know what? I mean, you know, it's like, you know, we've had so many other post-apocalyptic stories without any kind of, you know, sexual or that kind of relationship being explored. It's like, you know, one out of, I don't know, a
Well,
hundred
I don't know, Walking
stories.
Dead had a bunch. Well, like, there was a bunch of gay
Walking Dead,
couples
yeah,
on
yeah,
Walking
Walking
Dead,
Dead did.
and
But
that's kinda
yeah,
like that's the big zombie
but
show.
somebody said I wanted to see them being chased by clickers. I don't care about Bill's past. Look, I kind of get what you mean, but at the same
Well,
time, this is a TV show. It's going to be a long show. We're going to see that kind of stuff in the show. I don't want it to be 24 hours of nonstop, uh, nonstop
yeah, zombie action.
shooting clickers on repeat. That was the worst part of the game, to be honest, was the
I
stealth
think
action
it's
combat. The best part is the storytelling and the character development. It just is. And if you've have you ever I want to know this, Mark, I want to ask you. Have you ever read Cormac McCarthy's The Road by any
yes.
chance? Okay,
Yep.
excellent book.
Very depressing book, but yes, it
V
is excellent.
That book has almost no action whatsoever. It's a
Yep.
very similar story. Setting, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
well, it's I think The Last of Us very clearly
oh,
takes some
yes,
cues from The Road.
big
Like,
influences from The Road. Cormac McCarthy. Also, Viggo
the
Mortensen did a film about it.
yeah, the I was gonna say the movie with Vigo is really solid too.
But it's one of the best books I've ever read in my life, and once again, there's no action in the book. I sometimes people not a lot of people, not everybody wants to see that kind of stuff. If and maybe movie's show might not be for you if that's your thing. There's other shows that exist with a lot of zombie um killing and stuff, and there's video games, of course, but shows
All
like
of Us Are
this and
Dead. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. This
Korean
is just like
zombies. Woo.
this is more of up my alley. Um, but so getting back to the episode, um, when 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 they were like when they did that cut where it's 3 years in the future, I thought that was so clever because they were in this like intimate moment. I'm not gay, so I was just kind of like, I don't know. That's just, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this. Like
Yeah,
I don't
I
like
was
guys
I was
kissing on
feeling a little bit
screen,
of that. Well, I mean, the way I
but
I thought it was me
they
being a
didn't
little bit
linger on it.
homophobic. Here, ask
What's
yourself this though. If it was a scene of Pedro Pascal and the girl who plays Tess that went on for as long and had as much kissing in it, I think I would almost be as uncomfortable. Like, it's like, okay,
yeah, it
I
depends on
get
who it is.
it.
If it's yeah, I don't like just explicit. That's why I like the sex stuff in Game of Thrones is just fucking obnoxious sometimes.
I don't know. Game
Um,
of Thrones, like,
but no,
usually the people involved in sex scenes in Game of Thrones are like
yeah,
8 or above, you know?
yeah,
They're not middle-aged and,
exactly.
like, post-apocalypse middle-aged, not, like,
Yeah,
sexy,
like gross.
like, "Hey, you must work out every day," middle-aged, you know?
Look, I'm not gonna react positively to seeing like any guys kiss, to be honest. But that's just like I wouldn't blame a gay guy if like a straight couple were kissing and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't want to see that." Like I don't care. Like I get it, I get it. But I thought they handled it in the show with a lot of with the same nuance that they would any couple in that situation.
Yeah.
It's you know what I mean. And like I said, they cut right to they had this interesting edit where they went from this intimate scene right to 3 years in the future where they're having an argument. And it was like, it was a really clever edit because it jumped the tension. Just like, it kind of took you off guard a little bit. And you were like, whoa, what's happening now? And then
Yeah,
I just liked that a lot. I thought that was
it
really cool.
what does that tell you, though? What does a couple having an argument in the apocalypse tell you?
I took it as though they have been they made this work obviously, and they've been exploring ways to kind of psychologically cope with the fact that nobody exists
Mhm.
except, dangerous people. And they're trying to be as normal as possible. And I thought that was a really interesting. I don't think I've seen that happen too often in these kinds of stories. You don't really focus on that very much.
The
I
point I
like.
was gonna make
Oh,
was,
go ahead.
more simplistically, though,
Yep.
cutting to them having an argument and saying 3 years later, because 3 years later, you can
Hmm.
already assume, yes, clearly they've stayed together.
Yeah.
But having an argument in the apocalypse means you care enough about that person that you're
Yeah.
willing to have an argument, that you're not just like, "Alright, fine, see ya,
Yep.
I'm outta here. What are you gonna do, come after me for child support? Like, get fucked."
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And they had a brief argument. They didn't really have a big one, but they were just
Yeah.
kind of bickering like any other couple would.
Well, that's the thing.
Never
If you're
thought Lofty
gonna
was
have an
gay.
argument, you probably care enough about the person that, you're in.
Right, right. No, the reason why I'm saying I'm not gay, Shock, is because I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, oh, it was such a beautiful. I loved watching them make out in the bed and almost have sex. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. And that's not my cup of tea, but look, it's what people do in the world. And if it serves a story appropriately, um, it works and it works on an emotional level. I'm just not I just anyway, you know what Mark knows what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, also because it does serve the story because this version of Bill that because I mean we didn't get this much backstory for Bill in the game,
Yep.
so who knows if this is like canon Bill or like I mean what
Yep.
his backstory was always supposed to be like. But the idea of him being a guy who maybe before the apocalypse was only ever in the closet and never really
Yeah.
explored very much.
Well, that's
And
what it seems like.
yes, and I think that that was an interesting kind of layer to add to it to be like, okay, well, yeah.
It's an
I mean,
improvement on the character. It really
well,
is.
because like if you're in the closet before the apocalypse, after the apocalypse, it's like, okay, well, it's not like I have to worry about my parents finding out.
Yeah, yeah, but it's so much more deep than that. This show is going to be so fucking depressing every fucking episode. Now, this probably is
Eh,
the most wholesome it will ever get. Like it's obvious. Every other episode of the show is probably going to be miserable. And
well, I mean,
I
I
think that's why I love this episode so much because it was like it was the equivalent of finding a flower growing by itself in the middle of like a dead barren wasteland. Like that's what I felt watching this episode. And it was like, "Oh, that's so beautiful. This we need to preserve this moment. This is an important moment because everything else in this world is fucking horrible and miserable, but this is an excellent example of how humanity can. Oh, I think we lost Mark. Uh oh. Well, I'll invite him again. Oh, maybe he'll join back again. But I'll just finish my thought. This is an example of hi, Mark. This is an example of humanity achieving like its peak, like purpose in life, which is to blossom and like to flourish and in the midst of tragedy. And just everything about this episode was beautiful. I don't know. Go ahead, Mark.
no, no,
I
I
can't.
was just gonna
Oh,
say I
sorry.
accidentally hit the back button on my mouse.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
But yeah, I thought that the relationship was done really well. I think the changes suit the
Yeah.
medium of television more
Oh, hi,
than
Mark. I love
more
saying
more.
that.
Oh yeah, I do get
Oh,
that a
hi,
lot,
Mark.
and I
I did
enjoy
hit.
it. I,
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
indeed.
Oh boy.
But yeah,
Sorry,
I
Mark.
mean, I was
Go
saying
ahead.
though that I like the way the relationship is done. I think that the most valid complaint you could levy against the game, or sorry, the game, the
The show.
episode, and I don't really think there's much of a counter argument to it. Was like, well, it is kind of filler as far as the main story that they're telling goes, especially
Yeah.
if they pretty much confirmed it's like, okay, Bill is not going to play any more of a part. I
Yes.
think they did a reasonable job though of, I mean, is it okay if we talk spoilers for the game? Because
Yes.
like,
Yes.
okay, because like I don't necessarily know that this is how they're gonna take it in the show. Because I mean,
No, no, no.
clearly
Hold
they've
on, hold on.
changed some
Shock,
stuff.
shock.
Oh,
Shock says there's going to be other feel good moments. He also brought up that Joel saved Ellie, rescues Ellie. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
well,
talking about
I
like
and
happy
yeah,
endings. Happy endings.
well,
Okay.
and that's
This was a
actually
happy ending.
sort of what I was gonna mention was that
Yeah.
like the hospital scene at the end of the first game, that is the
Yeah.
big question that I think actually my biggest problem with The Last of Us Part 2, or at least it as at least from what I can tell, Neil Druckmann's perception of The Last of Us Part 2 and what it does to the first game, is that Joel was definitively wrong. And I've always felt the exact opposite. I was like, no, Joel would be a fucking sociopath if he did not kill his way through that hospital to save that girl. I'm sorry. I think he did the
Yeah.
right thing, absolutely objectively. And I think that everyone who takes the, oh, Joel was the bad guy all along take, I was like, you've never loved anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And I think
Um.
though that this episode did a good job of reinforcing that as a plausible stance, because that's in Bill's letter to Joel, where he's like, yeah, he's like, I found someone to protect.
Yeah.
I'm a guard dog, and I found someone to guard, someone to love, and someone to guard. You're the exact same way, Joel.
Yep.
Protect Tess. And obviously, Bill, when he wrote the letter, didn't know that Tess was dead. But Joel
Yeah.
has someone who he's willing to kill for now. Or like he does. He doesn't know it yet. But I think that it's like, well, I don't know, man. If they're gonna go into Last of Us 2's story, and I think they'll
Yeah.
they'll now have to
They.
go back to Bill's thing and be like, okay, so Bill was wrong, I guess. He shouldn't have
Well,
died for Frank and
I
lived to
mean,
protect him.
I mean, being wrong is not really a thing in this universe. It's like, um, I don't know. I mean, this universe is so depressing that it's just like they got to live out their lives and go out together, and it's like it's just it's a great it's just a great peaceful like moment in time that
Yeah.
like needs like that I'm glad to have witnessed, and I'm glad that exists in this universe, and not everything is like a lot of the times The Walking Dead is just like so cynical. Everybody's just like, wow, I gotta watch out, I gotta look behind my shoulder every 3 seconds. It's like, yeah, yeah, but where are the stories where people are like trying to actually be human beings in this apocalyptic world? Like I like stuff like that. But and the road, like the relationship between the boy and Ellie and Joel is another good example of that. Like the whole point of The Last of Us is like is like against all odds trying to connect with somebody and help them and help each other basically through an impossible situation.
Well, it's finding a reason to
Yep.
remain human when the whole rest of the world's turning into monsters. Which I
Yes.
mean, it's simple. It's a simple theme for zombie fiction, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't been told well in at least the first Last of Us video game, and I think so far in this show. I had some pretty serious logical issues with the end of episode 2. If anyone thinks we're just gushing over how great it is, I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
I
talk episode 2.
we could. I just wanted to wrap up this one quick. I'm also not gushing over the show. I thought the first two episodes were fine. They were, I'm not a huge fan of I'm not the biggest Last of Us fan. I think I'm just kind of over a lot of this apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic stuff. Kind of bored
Yeah.
of it.
Well, I
Um,
mean, The Last of Us came out when it was peak zombie
yeah,
zeitgeist.
yeah, and like I said, the story was the best part of that game, but I still don't think I think it might be overrated because people are like, "Oh, the best story of any video game of all time." I'm like, "Oh god."
No.
Like, nah, it's not even close in my opinion. Like it's not even half as good as like other things in its own genre. Like The Road is a masterpiece. Um and I just think it's a better story. The Last of Us to me hits on a lot of cliches. It does a lot of shock value stuff, a lot of tropey stuff. It has a good story, but it's not a masterpiece. Um,
It was
but
told
yeah,
at a high standard. It has very high
yeah,
production value, and
yeah,
it was directed well. I think Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson knocked their roles out of the park, and I think that, like, regardless of what anyone thinks about any of these people's personalities, even Druckmann, like,
yeah,
they're good at what they do. I would argue that I don't think Druckmann is a fantastic writer. I think he needs someone to temper him, like he had Bruce
yeah.
Straley on the first game and
Look,
Craig
this
Mazin on the
episode,
show. Like,
this episode had much better and more sophisticated writing than the first two episodes combined. I think Druckmann wrote the first one. This one was done by some other guy. I think he did Chernobyl, which is a
Craig
fantastic
Mazin.
show,
Yeah,
unbelievable show.
yeah, he is the
Yeah,
reason I am watching this show.
it,
Otherwise, I would have just been like, Last of Us TV show, no thanks.
yeah. The Chernobyl guys, if you haven't seen Chernobyl, you should watch it
Yeah.
now. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Um,
My nitpick with that show is I'm still not on board with the English accents
oh, that's fair.
being the move. I was like, "Oh, man, you should have just
That's
done
fair.
fake Russian accents. I'm fine with that." But because I keep on thinking they're British, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck
Yeah,
yeah, they're all
yeah.
supposed to be Russian." Like, it was actually confusing me, but,
No, I
yeah,
just like
that said, it's my only complaint. Other than that, Chernobyl's almost perfect. It's
yeah.
really,
I just
really
think
good.
I agree. I just think what he also did in this show, which was somehow in an hour and 15 minutes, or actually in like an hour, or 50 minutes even, um, told this story and this multi-arc, 15-year time spanning story of these two characters that fall in love and then are challenged repeatedly in this apocalyptic world, and then end up ultimately having this very poignant ending. Like I can't like I don't know how he wrote. I don't know how he did it. It's such a powerful story in the pocket, in this little like pocket um arc of this overall overarching depressing show. Like it just felt so necessary to like just deal with these characters for an episode. It's just I loved it.
I think it also kind of
Yeah.
functions as like a little standalone short film. And I
Yep.
think that ultimately, if you picture that writers' room meeting, right, where it's like, "Hey, so Neil, what is Bill? Who is Bill, and what's his deal?" Okay, so he's this crazy survivalist guy. He has this town full of traps, and he's gay. His boyfriend hung himself,
Yeah.
and he's really edgy. It's like, okay, gay guy
Oh,
has
hey
a town
Zex.
that he fortified. All right, cool. And then came back. All right, how about if the story goes like this instead?
Yeah.
And I can't see anyone reading this version and not being like, "Oh yeah, that's better." And no, like, it's not a
Look,
masterpiece. It's
I,
just
I think it's close,
it's
man. I think it's
eh,
close. Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
do.
I wouldn't want
I
to
think it's a
oversell it.
perfect.
I think it's
I think it's
a very
I mean, I'm not
solid piece
overselling
of
it. Have you
traumatic.
seen social media? Everybody is saying it's one of the best television shows of all time.
Well,
I'm
I
talking about
mean,
Chris Stuckman, Young, yeah,
well, I mean,
everybody. I'm not
oh,
the only one saying this.
I th I
Mike
mean, like,
Flanagan.
I don't wanna
Wait,
sound
hold
like
on,
a
hold on, hold
pompous
on, hold on.
asshole who's like, "Well, I'm
Mike
better than
Mike
Chris Stuckman
Flanagan.
and Young."
Mike
Yeah, but
Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, who wrote Haunting of Hill House. He wrote Doctor Sleep. He
yeah,
wrote
I know Flanagan.
what's the other one? Midnight Mass, Midnight Club.
Oculus,
He's doing Fall the House of Usher, and then he's doing The Dark Tower next.
he
He
did,
says it's one of the greatest episodes in
Ouija
television
Origin of
history.
Evil, which is actually a really good movie, and I'm not
Yeah,
kidding.
he said it was one of the greatest episodes in television history. Okay,
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
I don't I wouldn't go that far, but
yeah.
I thought it was an incredible writing, incredible acting, incredible directing, incredible pacing, editing, all of it. 100%, 100%. Got a 9.3
Yeah.
on Rotten Tomato on IMDb.
Well, I mean, again, and I I
Yeah.
don't know if I would go that far. I think it is a very solid episode of television. I think it's done well. I think it fits into the story that they're telling in this version of The Last of Us
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
decently because I mean if
I
Bill has he doesn't even show up in the sequel. So Bill
I
really is a character who you run into in Bill's town and never see again.
I
And I
don't
think
know.
that this was a much more satisfying story than the one that's in the
Yeah.
game about the same character. I think the biggest complaint that you could easily make and is valid is that, well, it's a this is an episode a show with 9 episodes
Yeah.
and it mostly focuses on these 2 characters and we've still yet to get an episode with those 2 characters primarily, you know?
Right, right.
Like
But look,
and I think
if
that
this was
that's a reasonable criticism, but I just still
that's
think that what
fair.
they did was good. Like,
That's fair. But if this was a standalone film and if it like what would I think it's a great story. It's an incredible story between two people that I mean if you didn't watch the episode, I don't know. I feel like you should watch it before you criticize it because a lot of people are
yeah, I mean that
yeah.
if you haven't seen the episode, it is
It's
done
much
very
better than
well.
you
Much
I
like the
thought
game,
yeah.
it's just constructed very well. It's done at a high standard. It doesn't look like
I
cheesy network TV stuff. It
yeah.
looks like movie caliber stuff. With Nick Offerman playing like a libertarian survivalist who isn't at all like his
It's
character in
fucking
Parks and Rec.
he's
Like it's a totally different type of character,
he's
even
the
though it's
most
the same type of
based
character.
he's the most based conservative character I've seen and like I can't even think of another
Mhm.
character that's that badass that they
But the
didn't
personality is
yeah.
kind of unique too that he
Yeah.
brings to
He
it.
just happens to be gay,
Yeah.
which a lot of conservatives are, by the way. Steven Crowder just came out as bisexual like 3 days ago. So,
Wait,
yeah.
3 days ago? I thought that was like that isn't that like an old thing?
I don't know, it might have been an old thing, but it was resurfacing or
I think I
something.
remember
Anyway,
seeing in like an Aiden Paladin video that she
yeah.
showed a clip of him saying like, "Oh yeah, if you're bisexual, it just means you're gay," and then it cut to a clip of him saying, "Yeah, well, back in college during my bisexual days," and it was a really funny edit
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
like, "Oh
No, but
wow."
I don't care if people are gay. It doesn't
I mean,
bother me.
yeah, like
I like good
be gay.
storytelling.
It's fine. It's
I like good
2023. No
storytelling,
one
and I
gives a
like
shit.
dude, that ending with him having ALS or whatever disorder he had, and him not being able to function properly in a like in in
Oh,
by
really? It was
himself.
ALS? I sort of just thought he had cancer.
I thought he had cancer too, but I think it was ALS. But like the way that they were dealing with that was so heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and it was so well done. Everything
It was
about
a
it was
good
amazing.
expectation subversion too, with going
Yeah,
from the
the gunshot,
gunfight
the
to 10
gunshot.
years later, and you're like, "Oh, okay, so this was a" and when you see the 2 dudes with beards on the stoop, and one of them's in a wheelchair, you're
Zach's
100% certain it's Bill, and then you're
Zach's
like,
didn't.
"Oh,
Yeah,
shit."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. No, Zach says he doesn't find it to be romantic. Look, I understand what you're saying, but I
Well,
disagree. I'll tell you why.
I mean,
Otherwise, you get the same generic ending that everybody else in this entire universe actually like. You know, it's always somebody who's dying a miserable death, and then another person has to live on alone and miserable. And it's like, when do you see a situation like this where it's the apocalypse?
yeah,
It's
I
not like
mean
real world where this
That
guy
I
could,
was gonna
yeah,
say there's a strong distinction between real life suicide
yeah. It's the
and
apocalypse.
apocalypse. It's like,
It
well,
the it is kind of romantic.
circumstances are
I mean,
different.
it's it's romantic, and then I want to cry for 7 hours away
Well,
because it's so depressing.
you wanna know
But yeah,
what's great about that in concept, and it doesn't
yeah.
necessarily just have to be this episode of a TV show, but the idea that you don't s it's a you could probably say it's a trope or like a storytelling mechanism that you really don't see very
Yeah.
often, is someone getting the reward of a peaceful death in an apocalyptic
Oh,
situation. And
you
it
never
doesn't
see it.
like yeah, like, you really don't, even in
You
shows
never
that
see it.
run for a long time because they always will
Everything is
wanna
so
go for that,
predictable in
like,
this
"Oh"
genre. Everything is
yeah.
so predictable. Everyone dies miserably. Um, and and then they cry and they have to live, and then they have to have this hardened, like, emotionless existence for the rest of their lives, like Rick from Walking Dead.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. This was unique. It was refreshing. It was fascinating. It was really well. It was well written. Very realistic dialogue. Very good acting. You like the
Mhm.
acting is what everybody agrees on, whether you don't like the episode or not. Offerman was incredible, um, and like it was just essential to the themes of the story. Life, living with death, knowing that you know you're oh what was that song? What was that song they played? Linda Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt's. I
Yeah,
don't know the name of the song.
it's this. It gives you the sense of like eternal loneliness and suffering, and it's a very sad, depressing song, but it's a beautiful song.
I love
And
how
that
he
duality is like I felt that throughout the entire episode. Like
I
that.
love it when Frank
Yeah,
starts playing it, and then Nick Offerman just kind of he sort of like artistically is like, No, no, no,
I
no,
know. He's like,
not
I
like
can't
that."
handle it. I can't
Yeah,
handle this.
and then he sits
Yeah.
down and just does this like beautiful kind of like subtle version of it. It's like, oh wow, yeah, that is way better.
Yeah, I just disagree that it was a waste of time. I think a one-to-one adaptation of the game is a waste of time, to be honest. I've already fucking played it. I don't need to play it again
Yeah,
in
I
front of my face.
well, I think
That
the
is a waste of my time.
I think
This
though
is
that
something that is so original and interesting and completely necessary for me to be engaged in this show. 100%. I couldn't possibly disagree more. Couldn't possibly
and
disagree.
Lofty, I'm actually on
Yeah.
your side on this one, but to give
Yeah.
Jackson some credit, I can
Yeah.
see if if what you want from this show is a show about
Copied and
Joel and
pasted
Ellie.
Joel and
Well, I
Ellie
mean,
show. Yeah.
not necessarily because I mean, you
But that's what
can
people want, apparently. I
well,
don't know.
but I mean, come to what I guess here, look at it this way. If the concept was there's going to be a whole bunch of these episodes where it's just stories of the two of them out in the wilderness, and maybe not a whole
Yeah.
bunch, maybe like two or three at different, one per season, because
Right.
I mean, the game's broken up into seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that if the goal is to connect us to this different version of Joel and this different version of Ellie, I think that you can very confidently say that, hey, spending any time away from these characters in a 9-episode season
Yeah.
is a gamble because
It's
we
a
know that
gamble.
Joel is making it like maybe 3 episodes into season 2.
It's a gamble.
And
But
but I
I
mean,
don't
so that's
even
the thing, like
like the
I see that
game,
side
so
of
I
it.
don't care as much.
Well,
Like, I'm not a
exactly,
fan of
but
the
I think that, and
game's
again,
overrated.
and I would agree to that as well.
Yeah.
I will say though that I've actually every single episode that's happened except for this one because I was pretty positive on it. I've actually like messaged Mahler after I've finished it, being like,
Oh,
okay, I hated this, 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 and this. Am I just being too hard on it or what? Because I hated Last of Us Part 2 so much that I feel like my well is poisoned against the series to the
uh-oh.
point that I feel like I'm being harder on the show than I need to be. But and this was the first episode where I'm just like, yeah, major changes, but I actually kind of have no complaints about the way this
Yeah,
one
like,
was
can you
done.
imagine if
Like,
they changed all of Last of Us 2? That would be fucking amazing.
oh yeah, it would be incredible.
Like, I don't know why
I'd be
people are
really happy.
complaining about that. It
Well,
makes
I
no
think that
sense to me.
even honestly, I think you could tell that story in a way that doesn't suck. You just have to do things
Yeah.
like not make Abby insufferable and make her a lot more
Oh,
understandable
yeah, yeah.
early on.
If they
And
did that story the same, but, like, completely different, like, not the
yeah,
same, but if they had
well, the
if they
same
hit all the
concept
beats.
of
Yeah,
it leading towards what presumably is a season 3 in which Ellie and Abby are on the same side. That
yeah.
like you have the sequel be the one where the antagonist kind of becomes a co-protagonist, and you find out that they're really not all that different, and whatever. The like
Look, I'm
it's a
telling you.
super depressing ending. I hate The Last of Us 2. I'm not
Yeah,
defending it, but I'm saying that you could tell a story that is
yeah,
formulaically similar in a way that doesn't suck. They just didn't do that.
exactly. I don't know. I fucking love this episode. I think it was up there with any episode have you ever seen the show Severance?
No, although a lot of people
Very
have been
similar,
telling me to watch that.
very good show.
It's
Very
with
similar relationship.
Adam Scott.
Yeah.
Adam Scott?
Oh, Adam Scott. John Turturro and Christopher Walken have a very similar relationship between Frank and Bill in this episode. John Turturro and Christopher Walken have a gay relationship in Severance, and it's fucking amazing. And it's not even
I do
gay.
like
It's
both
just
of those actors
it
a lot.
it's Christopher Walken and John Turturro in Severance are unbelievably wholesome. It is so I feel so bad for them. It makes you it's crushing emotionally. It's such a good show. Severance. Ben Stiller directed it. It's probably the best show of the year. I
Yeah,
think
I think
it should have won an Emmy, but or whatever.
yeah,
But it didn't.
I have Apple TV Plus
Yep.
too, so
Yep.
I should make more use of that.
Oh,
I
dude, watch it. Trust me, you'll like it. But I don't know, man. This was up there with any episode of Severance, any episode of like fucking I don't know. Nick Offerman in Devs was really good. That sci-fi show. He was really
didn't
good
see
in that
that either.
show, but he was
I
better in
loved
this.
him in Parks and Rec. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but he
kind of
was
all
so
I really know him from, but
yeah.
he was my
It,
favorite character. I think
yeah.
honestly, I know that character was kind of supposed to be a parody, but I'm like, I think a lot of the way I view the government is like sort of
Well, look,
filtered through the character.
yeah.
It's
But
like, yeah, fuck paying taxes.
comedy actors are so good for these kinds of roles. They're very in touch with humanity on the spectrum of like comedy and making people laugh and kind of knowing like which uh, uh, emotions and to kind of play with on that spectrum. And when they do drama, I mean, you see it with Vince Gilligan, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. He
Yeah, yeah.
only works with comedy actors. That's all he does. And it's like, he does it. He said this. He says he likes hiring actors who are good at comedy to do dramatic stuff. And he has a whole theory behind this, but it's something to do. It's the Robin Williams effect. I mean, how many people think Robin Williams is like is the one of the most wholesome but like depressing people like to ever have existed? And it goes not just his suicide, but the way he lived his life, like trying to constantly please people, not ever being who exactly who he is, and like on the inside, like there's so much depth of emotion beneath the surface of some of these comedians that they're often very, very good when it comes to dramatic roles. Look at Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems or Spanglish. Look at Jim Carrey in the Truman Show or in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and then Nick Offerman in this show. It's like and fucking Walter White. I mean, that guy went from being a clown to one of the most incredible performances of all time in television. Like, I don't know, man. I got to do a video about this or something, because there's something going on with comedy actors that is like, there's some like crazy, like deep emotions like that. I don't even know. I don't understand it.
I mean, comedy
know.
is difficult to pull off. It
Yeah.
requires a lot of timing. And
Yep.
drama is it's similar in a lot of ways. It's just a different emotion that you have to channel.
Exactly. But did you want to talk about your problems with the second episode quick?
Okay,
And then
so
we'll
the
wrap up
second
this one?
episode I found out, by the way, afterwards, directed by Neil Druckmann. I found this
Yep.
out after I had
Yep.
issues with it.
Yep.
I believe he did not write it, and I think, hold on one second, just got a cough.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Sorry about that. Had to mute.
Zax. I like Dev Stacks. You're right. You're correct. It's a great show.
I think you could make the argument that the problems in this scene are on the page. Although I think that it could not only be fixed in the director's chair, but in the editing room. In fact, I was actually I haven't had the time, but I was actually debating cutting the scene in a way that like removes the major problem I had with it. And it's one of those things that like people I've run this by people who've been like, yeah, that's a nitpick. I'm like, but it's not a nitpick when it makes everything ridiculous and then other crazy things happen. So what I'm talking about is spoilers for episode 2. Everybody turn it off for, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Oh, the Tess is dead?
Okay, yes. So when Tess dies in the game, I won't do an argument from adaptation. This wasn't exactly like the game, therefore it's bad. But in the game, it's not infected the killer. It's Fedra soldiers. It's off camera. And I think that it kind of reinforces some of the thematic stuff they do with death in this franchise, where it's like, hey, death is cold, it's over and done with, and then you just have to move on. It wasn't a grand, like, sacrificial, like, explosive, like, run, I'll hold them off kind of deal.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'll hold them off. I'll buy you 30 extra seconds to get out of the building, and my last stand is over in like 3 pulls of a trigger. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and there's some beauty in that, but I'm not even going to criticize it for that, because I think, okay, you're doing a show, you want to have a big explosive payoff, you want to have her saving them in a more action oriented way. Fine, have her fight the zombies, sure.
Yeah, as long as it's
My
not cringe. Right,
Well,
right.
that's and my problem with it is they have multiple elements that make it just ridiculous. Okay, so she kicks over 2 fuel drums,
Yeah.
and then a crate, like a milk crate, full of hand grenades.
I know, I know, I
Yeah.
know, I 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 know.
No, but
She
here's the
should have pulled the
thing.
pin. She should have pulled the
No,
pin.
no, 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 Lofty, Lofty.
What? Okay.
You have the power to fix this scene. They should have not shown the grenades.
Well, that's true.
It's the editor. The editor could have saved this. Because the second you have those grenades in play, what happens is her plan is to, with a Zippo lighter, a faulty Zippo lighter,
Yeah,
ignite
yeah,
the
like
fuel that has been spilt on the ground, triggering an
Yep,
explosion that blows up the barrels and the
yep,
grenades. So, and the shot is from outside the building. You see a big explosion. It could be the
yes.
grenades, it could be the barrels, but it wouldn't fucking matter to the audience if you just never showed grenades at all. What
Yeah.
the grenades did is, when she's struggling with the lighter, you're just like, fucking Tess, pick up a grenade. There's
Yeah,
dozens at your
I
feet.
I
Just pull a pin.
I was cringing
Wait
at
for a
that.
zombie to kill you.
I agree. My butthole was clenched during that scene because it was so annoying. But
And then the
but
piss.
I liked I don't know. I liked the zombie trying to infect her. I thought it was creepy and fucking
But like,
disturbing. Very
what
body horror. And I
seems
don't like in the game, I don't like that it's just normal humans running around. Like I think that's weak and it's like it's like it's not as interesting as infected. It's just not. They're just like bandits. Like who thinks bandits are more scary than
well,
infected? They're
I
not.
don't, but I mean, it's less how the infected was acting and more
Yeah.
how Tess was acting that was weird to me.
Yes.
Because I'm
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
what are you doing making out with this infected when
Yeah.
you should be not even standing there, and not letting a bunch of them run past you and towards
Yeah.
Joel and Ellie? You should be making a bunch of noise, either pulling pins off multiple grenades and throwing them, or just stand in the middle of the fuel, pull one pin, and that's it. That's all you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
do, because
I
all that'll happen then is you'll drop the grenade because you're scared, and then 4 seconds later it'll explode, or the zombies will kill you. And the second it falls out of your hand, the spoon will pop off, the grenade will explode
yeah.
4 seconds
I
later,
think
and it'll detonate your trap.
I
It was
think
infuriating. I was like, why did you do this? Why did you put grenades in this scene? What did it
yeah, no,
add?
I think you're right, and I think the rest of the show is going to suffer from this occasionally, where it's just like stupid plot holes that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
The reason, another reason why this episode was so good is because it didn't have any of those, and because
Yeah.
it
I
didn't
know.
introduce any potential plot holes. It was a
Well,
story about people. It was just a story about humanity, and it was
you
like,
want I could get really
yeah, yeah.
autistic and give you one though.
Go
That
ahead.
Bill was just standing in the middle of
Yeah,
the street, not taking cover at all when he was firing at the
yeah.
Raiders. I was a little
Oh,
bit bothered by that. I let it slide, but I was like, Bill, why the fuck are you in the
yeah, but
middle of the road?
I thought maybe he knew that they were being overwhelmed by all this other shit, so he didn't need to take cover. That's kind of
Mm,
what I thought, but then he got shot.
well, I mean, also it's
Yeah,
dark, so it's like
it
you
is
knew
dark.
that what the 4 or 5 guys in front are being overwhelmed. What if there's 40 of them? Like, you don't
Yep.
know.
Also, he
You have no
probably had
idea.
confidence in his sniping abilities. I mean,
Yeah,
the
I
only
don't know,
reason he
man.
got shot was because he had to turn around to save his lover.
Yeah, I guess, fair enough.
But
I'll give you that much. But
yeah,
I'm just like, oh well, it wouldn't have been. Again, like, this is me as like a person that's thinking about blocking the
yeah,
scene. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, no, let's just have him be behind this power transformer, like hedge bush, so it's at least visual cover. you know,
Right.
like even if it's not going to stop a bullet, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
But
I can admit that that's a nitpick. I think the
yep.
grenade, I would almost argue it's not a nitpick because I'm like, I don't know, because it makes her retarded.
Mhm.
And
Look, that
I don't think that
scene,
serves the story.
the scene when they're at the dinner table making the Last Supper,
Yeah,
right? Which
that
is
was
the
heartbreaking.
same meal he made him when they first met. And the subtle eye glances at each other. The like there's no dialogue. It's everything's visual. The acting is on point. Um there's no music whatsoever. It's so like you're at the edge of your seat just kind of because you
Mhm.
know that they're about to drink poison and it's like I'm sorry that is just incredible storytelling right there. It
Frank's
just
actor
really
again
is.
knocked it out of the park too. I
Yeah.
don't even know the guy's name, but he was great because
That other
he
guy is so good. He's in White
he
Lotus. He's
he
in White
looked
Lotus.
at the
Yeah.
wine glass with fear
He
is what I
did.
really liked. And I was
He
like, that's really good because you
he
would
looked
still be scared. And
well
like even
not
if it's your decision, there's a part of you that would be like, oh, I'm not ready to go.
yeah, not just fear, but like he looked at it with the intent of ending his own life. And like there's
Mhm.
something yeah, something animalistic about it. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
man. It's just great acting and like I don't know, man. I like this episode a lot. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's one of the greatest episodes of television history,
No,
but I'm
I wouldn't say
finding hard. I when that episode was over, I sat there for watched the entire end credits because it was a great song, and I just sat there for a few minutes thinking, "What the fuck did I just watch?" That was totally unexpected, but totally beautiful storytelling and beautiful acting, and it's like not what I expected in a Last of Us show that I thought was just going to be like a copied and pasted script from a video game that I don't even really like that much. You know, it was just so unexpected.
I
Oh
thought it
man,
was gonna
I
be
loved it.
dramatically altered, but I didn't think it would be for the better at all.
Right for the better. And you know what they did at the end? Right, they zoomed in. They showed the window, which isn't the Last of Us 2 menu screen a window?
It's the first one.
Oh, the first one.
I think actually the second one does well, come to think of
Do you
it. The second one, the menu screen, I believe, changes depending on where you are in the game.
do you know what they did with the show that they had to get rid of? Which I think they should have kept it. But every episode they had a different
Explorers?
window. Every episode they had a different window filmed that they were going to do. You know when it says skip intro at the beginning of a
Yeah.
Netflix production or HBO, you can skip
Mhm.
the intro. They were going to force HBO to change it to play now, which is what it says in the video game.
Hey, yeah,
And
yeah,
and instead of an intro, like to a show, they wanted to have just a window
the
that you were
splash
looking
screen,
into,
yeah.
just like at the start of the video game.
Yeah,
And
that's well,
and
I mean, I think that would
oh, it
be a
would have been
good
so
idea for a
interesting and
streaming service to
artistic.
do that, like, because it's like a DVD
Yeah.
menu.
Yeah, but instead they put that window at the end of this episode, and it was
Oh,
so
actually,
poetic.
this is a you gave me the perfect segue to plug, my film,
Well, go ahead. Go
because,
ahead.
Flagrant Triggers, the same company who sells, X-Ray Girls, shirts and stuff, is selling the DVD of the independent movie that I made, and, it's a very kind of video gamey action movie, and my DVD menu, the, first thing that comes up is it says "Press start" because I was trying to make it seem like a video game.
That's awesome. Well, you know
So if
what? You
you
gotta
if you want that DVD menu, flagranttriggers.com.
you can throw it up in the YouTube chat
Do I have a
if you
wrench on your channel?
I thought
I
you
don't
did. Maybe you don't.
I don't know if I do, but
But
here, I'll be in there in a moment.
I could I can make you a thing, but I wanted to pull this up.
I'll just say hello in the chat.
Um, no, guys, this episode, I'm not the only one who likes it. I'm just saying. It's probably has the highest ratings of any television episode like recent memory. It's got like a 9.3 on IMDb. A lot of people are liking it. That doesn't mean you have to like it. I don't like things that are rated that high very frequently. I think Bullet Train was overrated. A lot of people like it.
I haven't seen it.
I think Megan is I don't understand how Megan is a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind.
Okay.
It's
Do
one of
I
the
have a
most
wrench
it's one
now?
of the most low effort horror movies I've seen in a long time. It's PG. It might as well be PG. It's not even PG-13. And they cut away from every death. It's so lazy, and
I
everybody in
heard
the
there
movie's stupid.
is
Every
a
character's stupid. Ugh, I don't know.
I heard there's an R-rated cut of Megan. I didn't see
Yes,
Megan
there's
though,
an
so I
R-rated
I have
cut,
no
but everybody's
opinion.
like, "Oh, I love Meg. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece." And then I'm like, "Well, do you know there's an
Isn't it like
R-rated version?"
Dreamhouse, right?
Like, how can you give Megan a 10 out of 10, but then have an R-rated version that exists? What are you going to give that one a 15 out of 10? You got to be realistic with your reviews, people. Holy fuck. This is a PG-13 movie aimed at teenagers. Like, oh my god. Anyway, Bullet Train was the score. Oh, I don't know. Bullet Train is
Man, like
okay.
I
Yeah.
really because Karen
Oh, I
Fukuhara is
can
in
wrench
Bullet
you.
Train, isn't she?
Huh?
Karen Fukuhara from The Boys, Japanese chick.
Oh, yes. I think I
Okay, yeah,
wrenched.
because she's in Bullet Train, which I heard is not very good. She was in Callisto Protocol, which fucking sucks, and The Boys I think is just okay. And I'm just like, man, I think she's really pretty, but she's not in anything that's like genuinely great.
Yeah, I
It's a
don't know,
first
man.
world problem, really.
A lot of people like Bullet Train. I just don't like it. I think
I haven't seen it. I've just heard it's not good.
it's silly. Um, yeah, but no, Megan was the one I'm blown away by. But no, this show, like, let me go back to this for a second. It's funny to me. Okay, it's funny. Um, share screen. Let me just do this quick because. Oh no, hold on. Okay, IMDb. All right, look at this. Now, oh, I forgot to scroll down. I was trying to scroll down here. You see that? You see that? Okay. Look at the 1 stars. Okay, most people would say it's, I don't know. I feel like if you're anywhere between like 6, 7, and to 9, you're probably being realistic. I almost gave it a 10. I think it's legitimately close because I just don't feel like, I think it's a beautiful episode. But it's clearly most people think it's a 9 or a 10, like the vast majority of people. But look at these ones. 3,400. I love when it goes from like it's like dude, Peter's down and then ones. Like, how many of these people gave it a 1 for either because it changed the character or because they're gay? You know what I mean? Like, even people who don't like this show or this episode because they changed it and they put in if you want to call it SJW politics, you can. Like Geeks and Gamers, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers said this. Even Jeremy said that this was a good episode, but he doesn't like the fact that they kind of, his opinion is that they went overboard with the SJW stuff. I disagree with him,
In
but
this
even he
episode
thinks
or
it's a
the
good
show
show.
in general?
This episode of The Last of Us.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think
This is
that like
this is episode
you.
3, by the way. I think.
Well,
Oh wait, no,
no, no,
let me
no.
go back.
I mean, what Jeremy was saying, they went too hard on the SJW stuff for. Like,
Oh yeah,
in episode 3, it's just so weird because like once you accept the premise of this is a love
yeah.
story about 2 gay men, it's like how well, I mean, how much SJ? I mean, that's how else do you do that?
I know. It's like, I don't know. I just disagree. I just disagree. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I
it's not like they started talking about global warming and then how they had
Yeah,
to
there's
pay
nothing woke
reparations
about
to some of
this.
the
There's
black settlements.
absolutely nothing woke about this. Like, if they handled this the same way they would a normal couple. Like they made out in bed, which happens all the time in regular movies. You know, they just make out and then they kissed another time, but everything else was like just human interactions and people like being in love with the other person and trying to deal with like death. Like, there's nothing woke about it.
And boredom and like
Yeah.
wanting to have a more satisfying life than hey, we're just surviving every day and being like,
No,
hey,
this is not true, River. The character Frank has always been gay, and the character Bill is somebody who was a closeted gay person.
yeah,
They explicitly said this in the HBO podcast, and they gave multiple
which
hints throughout the episode.
I did not hear that. Sorry to interrupt, but I did
That's
not hear
okay.
that podcast, and I
But you
said that
still called
on
it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you
That
still
was
got it.
very clear, I think,
It was
because
very, very clear.
the idea of him saying, "I've done this
Yeah.
with a girl once," told me that he tried it with a girl, he didn't really like it, and just
Yes.
kind of was asexual from there on out because he didn't want to
Oh,
be
in the
gay.
game. In the
But,
game, it wasn't clear. Well, I
no,
think
no,
in
it
the
was clear.
game,
It
it
was
was
100%
just
clear.
yeah, he said it was his partner, and then he cried when they found him, hanging, and he
And
kind of cried.
Ellie finds his gay porn in
Yes, Ellie
his
finds his gay
bedroom.
porn. Yep,
So when he's
and,
talking about his partner, Frank, who he's crying over, and you find gay porn, I felt like I don't know, like, you could say it's not overt, but,
yeah.
like,
But,
I'm not
no,
sure
it's just
how much more
there's
of a
nothing
signal you need to give.
there's nothing woke. They even I can't even believe I have to say this again, but they had a conservative Second Amendment guy say
Yeah.
the words "fuck off." Wait, he said "fuck you, New World Order, fuck scum" or whatever. He said that as a line in a show on HBO. I couldn't even believe it,
And it was people going door to door during a
and it
pandemic.
was an actual New World Order. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't even being a conspiracy theorist. He was like they were actually giving him credit for being accurate about his description,
Say
and
the
they
government are all Nazi. The
and
government
they
are all Nazi.
yeah. Yeah, the one guy was like, "You think the governments are all Nazis?" And he's like, "The government are all Nazis." Because
And I
they
mean
are.
that yeah, Fedra is they're
Fedra
good.
are
The 2
slaughtering people.
examples that are closest to standard US
Yeah.
government or like militias that are functioned around the US government's model are Fedra, who are really not in the series all that much. Like
I
they're at the
just
beginning,
I'm
but
sorry.
even in the game, and then WLF and in Last of Us 2, who are the sort
Yeah,
of military faction in Washington.
right.
Neither of them are
Yeah.
good guys.
No, 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 no. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If this if this was a straight couple, there would be a lot of people that would suddenly not have a problem with this episode. Not everybody. There would be some people that'd be like, "Oh, it still deviates from the source material."
Yeah.
But there would be so many people that wouldn't be complaining because it was a straight couple and not a gay couple. That's just how that's the world we live in, sadly.
I think
But
though that
yeah,
I think you could be
yeah,
forgiven for being bored by the episode regardless. Like if you
that's
just said,
okay. It's just
"Yeah, I
not
don't
your
know, it just
thing. I mean,
wasn't."
some
Yeah.
people are bored by The Road. I think it's a
Mhm.
masterpiece of a novel, but some people are like, oh, I need action. I need action. Some people are bored by A24 movies. Some I posted A24 video thing on my Twitter, and some guy goes, "Oh, those are nap time movies," and I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?" And it's like, I just have to accept the fact that some people need flashy lights in their movies 24/7. They don't like to think about anything contemplative in their movies. It's like, you know what I mean? Like some people are just very comfortable with action, 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 Michael Bay action, action, action. And some people are much more comfortable with exploring like ideas and stuff in their
Well,
stuff.
again, I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna again be charitable to the people that I didn't mean to imply that there was necessarily anything wrong with if you thought that it was
Well,
boring,
I'm
but I
talking
meant
about the
I'm
people who said A24 movies are nap time
oh
movies.
yeah,
I'm
okay.
talking
That
about
I'm
that
not
person.
I'm not
That
giving those
person.
people any charitability because
Yeah.
that's lumping a whole studio's like
Yeah,
movies in
that
together,
is
and
the
they have
dumbest
a
thing
lot
I've
of.
ever heard.
I've watched some boring A24 movies, but I've also
Yeah,
watched
yeah, yeah.
some boring Miramax movies. You know.
Oh, there's extremely boring A24 movies. High Life is boring. Um, and I thought Men was incredibly not overrated, but just overindulgent and pretentious.
I
But
might have to lose my hipster card, but I was
yeah,
not crazy about The Green Knight. I know that's one a lot of
The
people
Green Knight,
absolutely
I
love.
loved it, but
Yeah, I know a lot of people do. I don't know, I couldn't get
that's
into
a
it.
polarizing movie. But The Northman is incredible.
Oh, I love The Northman. Northman was my favorite movie of last year,
I
and
know, but there's
I
people.
really loved
I
everything
agree.
everywhere all at once as well.
I agree. Oh, I agree with that too. But that is not a slow movie at all. That movie
Also,
is
although Northman's not A24, I keep forgetting that it's like
yeah,
Focus, I think.
yeah. But you know what I mean? Like we have to understand there's different kinds of people in the world that don't want to see people want to see zombie
Yeah.
action. Like that's fine. If you want to see zombie action, don't watch this show. It's not for you. It doesn't
Well,
mean
and I mean,
They
but
they
I think that as
yeah,
I was going to say though, to be more charitable to the people that I was
yeah.
implying would be bored. I think what I was more referring to is people that think this is just filler because they're like, no, this story should be about Joel and Ellie because they're the main characters. We shouldn't be doing flashback characters about people who are then dead. This was
But
a side story that like probably
I
should have been a promo thing that you released 6 months before the show came out or something. Like, I mean,
that's a
I think I
fair
could see
opinion.
people making that argument, but
I just
I still
disagree.
thought it was good though. So I mean,
I
I can just be sympathetic to that point of view. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not incorrect, but
uh,
it's like it's also not 100% correct.
yeah, I mean, there's other shows that have main characters that aren't even in the show for half the season, like Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Um, I just don't. I think people are cherry picking when they say, "Oh, the main
I think
character needs to be in every episode." Well, not always.
it might be different though if they didn't say that, hey, yeah, like season one is the first game in its entirety. Like they're not being like, okay, we're doing 4 seasons
Oh,
that are
that's
going to be the
different.
first
That
game.
is people having the expectation of this being a one-to-one adaptation of the game. And
Well,
if you're one of those people, I get it. You won't like this
no, but
episode.
I was saying though that you don't necessarily need to make it a one-to-one adaptation to have the story be focused on
Yeah.
the characters that the story is fundamentally about. Because if they are adapting the story of the first game, I mean the the cornerstone of that story is those two characters. More so than even say I don't know, Luke
Well,
Skywalker is in Star Wars, right? Like I feel like Luke
yeah,
Skywalker, you could swap in another
but
character and that might be fine. I think if you remove Joel or Ellie, either of those specific characters from The Last of Us, I don't know if that's the same story at that point, you know?
man, it's so complicated because I'm like psychologically tuned. I'm saying I don't want one-to-one adaptations. I just don't. That's
Uh,
not. I don't want it in almost anything because
well,
it
how's
restricts. It just it just restricts everything, and it's like, well, you only do that in a game because you have to have a character to play. That's the only reason they did that.
yeah,
Otherwise,
offer an alternative.
this show would have been more like The Walking Dead if it was just a television show. But because it's a video game, you have to have a character you play as. You can't be swapping between. Name a game that you swap between a million characters. It just doesn't happen
Detroit
very often.
become human.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen very often, and they don't do a very good job of it frequently.
Suikoden 2.
Um, that's
But
why.
what I was gonna say though is
Yeah.
I think that if they oh man, now I've kind of like lost my train of thought on that.
Well,
Never
like
mind. I'll come back
that's
to
okay.
it.
Like Elden Ring, for example. If they did a movie or a TV show, you wouldn't focus on the one character, you'd focus on the whole world. And it's like, or God of War. It's like, yeah, you would focus on Kratos, but there's so many other
Oh,
characters.
now I do remember.
Okay, go
It
ahead.
was along that you actually perfectly reminded me of what my point was going to be. I
God of
was
War.
like, I think that you could have made the case that this show would have been better, would have been a better show, and would have also had a lot more leeway with
Yeah.
situations like this, characters like this, if they just said, hey, this is the Last of Us TV show on HBO, and it's like a series of vignettes about characters in this universe that
But it's not though. It's 99% the game and then one episode that's not.
well, that's the thing, and I
Yeah.
think that the one episode that's not is
Was yeah.
more jarring to people because the rest of the show is saying, "Yeah, but it's about
Okay.
Joel and Ellie, guys. We're
But
serious,"
that
and it's
didn't
strange
bother
that
me. I don't know. I can't pretend to be bothered. I
I'll
don't
say this,
understand it.
I think
Yeah.
it would have been more effective if this was next week, and there was an episode where
Maybe.
Joel and Ellie were the anchor characters between this because
Maybe,
I think they kind of thought
but
like,
they
"Okay,
did
well, the first
anchor
10
Joel and
minutes."
Ellie. They did the first 10
Yeah.
minutes as Joel and Ellie, and they went to a brilliant flashback cut seek edit between the blanket and the live baby and the dead baby. It was so
Yeah,
brilliant.
and I have zero argument there because I
Yeah.
think that considering they did not give a full episode of, "Hey, now
Yeah.
here's some Joel and Ellie stuff," I think that they did what they could to
Yes.
incorporate that anchor that I was kind of referring to into this episode well. But that's the thing, like, I don't really have any major complaints to this episode. I've just been trying to see some of the arguments against it and how they could be valid. And I don't think that like, oh, well, it's about the gays is like really a valid one because it's like, well, I mean, okay, fine, but again, like I
Yeah.
think I would, I as uncomfortable as I was during scenes where they were making out, I feel like I would have had the same level of discomfort with like two middle-aged straight people making out. Like it's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still just like I don't feel like I need to be present for these intimate moments necessarily,
Yeah,
or at
I don't
least
need to
not for
be
very long.
attracted to what the but you're
Yeah, like
supposed
I'm
to
not going to
connect it
start
on an
beating off
emotional
this under
but
any
it's
circumstances.
yeah, but the emotional connection's way more important than the
Yeah,
than
and I
yeah.
mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know that I necessarily need longer like physical love scenes to sell an emotional connection. Like I thought that them that at the dinner and at the piano was
Yeah. Well, this
I
is
to
gonna
me I thought those scenes were more powerful than when they were in bed together.
Yeah, I agree. And the and the ending, the whole last,
Yeah.
but
I
I
like that they're like, "Hey, we left the windows open so the house doesn't smell, but, like, it's
yeah.
probably it's probably a sight to be to behold in there, so, yeah, don't go don't
Look,
go in the
look, look,
bedroom."
Final Fantasy VII Remake added 30 hours of extra content, okay? I am Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. It's my number 1 favorite video. I've played it 10 times. I have the strategy guide 2 feet away from me currently. It's broken. I've had it for 25 years. What they added to the game and all the stuff that was not in the original game, and there was like side content and character development and all this stuff. I thought it was better than the fucking first 3 hours of the first game. They actually improved so much of it, and that's how I felt about this. I thought this was an improvement to. This would be like playing a game and then doing like taking over as this character in a flashback sequence. It's like I just think it improves the character of the game, and it's like it just makes the character better. If something makes a character better, if this was terrible acting, if this was like, you know how sometimes Walking Dead has really bad characters and like writing and terrible side characters. If that was how this episode, ended up being, then it would be a bad episode. It would be terrible, and I wish I would have been like, oh, they should have just adapted the game, but they didn't do that. They didn't do that. I don't know. What do you think about Final Fantasy VII?
I love the original game. I have played the remake. I actually even finished the Crisis Core
Yep.
remaster. I would call it the Crisis Core one, and yeah, I like it quite a bit. I do kind of prefer the original FF7 story. I mean, again, it's sort of hard to one compare them because I mean, you've got like a third of, if even a third of the remake story is out. I
Yeah, but Coconut,
I
this was
wasn't
filler, I agree, but I thought it was amazing filler. Like, imagine that's like saying, a movie about I don't know, like, a movie about, uh, aliens invading Earth, and then you go and do an episode, and it turns out to be, Signs, like the movie Signs with Mel Gibson. That's a fucking great movie. I don't care if it's filler or not. It's still amazing. Like, I don't care if just because something is filler doesn't make it bad. That's what I'm trying to say. This to
if I were
me
gonna make an
was an
argument
incredible
for
episode regardless of being filler. It doesn't even matter. It was still amazing. Anyway, go
I
ahead.
if I were to make an argument for filler in the Final Fantasy VII remake, I would say the side quest design I was not crazy about. It was a lot of, "Oh, hey, yeah, go to this spot on this map that's way over here. Oh, by the way, our map system sucks. Fuck you. Come back here when you're done,
Yeah, but
and
that
we'll give
wasn't
you
the
some
majority of
stuff."
the game. That's barely
I mean, yeah, no, it's true, and you can kind of skip it, but I don't know, like,
yeah.
especially in role-playing games like that when they're the side quest roster is limited enough, I want to do them, but just, make it a little bit more than, "Hey, run
Yeah.
over here and find this random dude and talk to him," and, "Oh, yeah, and find these, I don't know, cats, whatever. Fuck you." Like, again, it really just kinda feels like
Yeah,
we
but
couldn't be bothered to, like,
almost
design
no
shit.
game does that. It's like it's hard to expect that from
I
anyone.
know. I mean, as much as people shit on it, I think
Yeah.
that all the gigs in Cyberpunk are pretty well constructed.
Yeah.
Like, and Witcher 3 being another one where, like, even
Yeah.
the simple kinda tertiary quests that are over in, like, 3 minutes there's a little bit of story in those in Witcher 3, and I don't
Right.
know, I in Final Fantasy 7, it just seemed like they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna charge $60 for this, so I don't know, it can't be over in 8 hours," you
I
know?
disagree. I thought the cutscenes, I thought the world building was it clearly took them 7 years to make it. It was so incredibly epic in scope. They had so much more Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, and Tifa, and Aerith. Like, there's so much more content
Oh,
than the
yeah, I'll
original.
say the Avalanche people for sure.
Oh, it was
They
such
got
an
more they
improvement.
got
It
a
was
lot
such an
more to
improvement.
do. Yeah, I won't argue
Yeah.
with that.
But, but I just think maybe I'll have a stream about that game one day because there's so much to talk about, especially all the different theories about, like, what's gonna happen.
Have you played Crisis Core, the
Not
new
yet. I
one?
haven't had time, dude.
It's
I'm playing,
good.
Dead
It's
Space.
not very long. It's
I
a
know. I
really solid Steam Deck game too.
I know I need to buy that. It's $700. Um, no, I'm
Steam
playing
Deck's
Dead
fluff.
Space. I'm playing Dead Space right now. It's,
Yeah.
really good. It's
I'll
really
be
good.
on EFAP talking about Dead Space on Saturday.
Damn it, how do I get on EFAP? What did you
I don't
do?
know. I guess have you ever spoken to Mahler? Send him a DM.
No.
How's it going?
I could do that. I could do
I mean, now
that.
you've been on Sitch and Adam, and they know him really well.
That's
And
true. That's true. Um,
I could say, hey, do you know Lofty if you want? In
oh
fact,
man.
actually, I've been talking to Mahler about Last of Us, so I could pretty casually mention you if you like.
Wait, yeah, wait for like a good topic for me that I have expertise in. Well, don't jump the gun. Let's not jump the gun
Oh,
here.
and Destiny was on talking about Everything
Oh,
Everywhere All at Once, so you know him too, right?
yeah, I'm friends with Destiny.
Yeah, you've
Okay,
got a lot of like connections to the fat people.
I know. All right,
I really
sounds
just
good,
know
buddy.
X-Ray Girl. Or does
Yeah.
she know me? I don't even know. I think it used to be she knew me, but now I know her.
Well, oh man, you guys got to come on my stream. Here's what I'm doing, by the way. Thursday, guys. Before you go anywhere. Oh, Mags needs to be on that stream. Oh, okay, okay. That sounds good. Guys, I'm trying to get. I think I'm having Melanie Mack on my stream this week
Yeah, right on.
as a
She's
guest.
on FNT on Friday too.
So yeah, now I just have to confirm if she's free at the times that I'm free. But other than that, she already said she would come on. We're gonna talk about E3 and how much of a disaster it is. Did you hear what just happened?
No, no. Are they? I heard they were bringing E3 back this year, but they were going to have like a public facing event and then an industry event.
they're uh, they're bringing it back, but Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony will not be part of
Yeah,
it.
well, because it's stupid. It's a waste of money for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
honestly, and the idea that any of these people are doing live press conferences,
oh
they got to be out of
yeah.
their fucking mind at this point. Like all you're doing is leaving yourself open to gaffes and memes.
Yes. Oh, quickly, what's the verdict of Last of Us? Okay, I'll say this: if you
Show,
like
yeah.
the game, you'll probably appreciate what you've. At least you might not like parts of it, but overall, I think you'll be like, "Well, this is actually a pretty visually faithful adaptation." But other than that, if you, I don't know what to say. I mean, I think it's a great post-apocalyptic show, just in general. I think it's
Yeah,
better
good
than
show.
The Walking Dead so far. But I don't know.
I
What do you
think,
think?
well, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. Walking Dead,
Wait
it's
for it to
so
come out. Wait for the whole thing to come out.
and that's the thing. It's like Walking Dead. I kind of feel like you could rate that show as 4 different things depending on how far you're willing to let it go before you give the rating.
Yeah.
Like, I could give you like an out of 10 rating for season 1 of Walking Dead, season 1 and 2, season 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's like
Yeah.
sometimes the number will bump up 1, sometimes it'll jump down 3. And I don't think it was ever better than the first season
No,
though.
no, no. First 2 seasons. Um, The Walking Dead you're talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah, first 2 seasons with John Bernthal are fucking incredible.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
just with
Well, I
him and
mean,
Rick.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Season 2, I think though they did kind of that's when
Yeah,
they got rid of Frank Darabont and
I
they
know. Yeah.
decided, "Oh yeah, we'll just do a whole season on this farm, yeah, so we can save money." And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well. Sure, you got the most popular show ever, but yeah, I guess save money in your second season.
Yeah. Oh, Pedro Pascal is doing a great job as Joel, by
Eh,
the way.
I don't know. I
I
think
think
he's
he's
okay.
I
I
think he's
think he's
good.
playing Pedro Pascal. He's like
Yeah,
gruff
but
dude
he's
protecting a little person. He just
but
sounds like
he's
himself. Like he sounds like
I know,
Mandalorian.
but you can tell he's slowly opening up. Like he was very shielded and guarded emotionally, and that this last episode he
Well,
opened up.
yeah, I mean, he's not a bad
Yeah.
actor. I don't know that I'm seeing Joel from him. I'm seeing Pedro Pascal, gruff badass dude.
Hmm.
Not like I don't know. I'm not really seeing a version of Joel Miller.
Yeah. So, well, guys, I mean, I could talk about this episode for a long time. There's a lot happened,
Yeah.
but I have to go. I have to go on Flaccid stream and talk about the same fucking thing. But
Cool.
they probably have more nuanced. They probably I don't think they liked it as much as I did, so that might be a fun conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I enjoyed it. I can understand the arguments against it as long as they're rooted in pacing and character
yeah,
focus. Because again, as I was saying, that and what I mean by that is not that I didn't find Bill and Frank to be interesting. In fact, I you can make the
yeah,
argument I've found them more interesting than Joel or Ellie so
yeah.
far, which is probably not a great sign. But I can understand that wanting the show to be focused on Joel and Ellie as opposed to having a full episode on other characters is reasonable, I think. And though at
Mm.
the same time, I think this episode was very strong,
I to
and
me, yeah,
two was strong as well.
I
It just kind of fucked up at the end.
I get it. I get it. I
Love
just
the
to me,
Jakarta scene too.
I'll end it by saying to me it's like Breaking Bad where it's like, yeah, I want every episode to be about Jesse and Walt, but if we have an episode all about Hank, I don't care
Or
because I
Mike.
love Hank. So that's how I felt about these two characters. I thought they were so well written and acted that to me it was the same thing as when Breaking Bad goes off script and they have an episode all about Gus, a flashback. To me, it doesn't take away anything from the story. It only adds to the mythology of the story. It just that's how I see it. If you disagree, that's fine.
Through
I'm
all of
glad you
Breaking
like.
Bad and Better Call Saul, we were lucky
Yeah,
anytime we were treated to a Mike episode.
that's true. Yeah, Mike.
It was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is gonna
yeah,
be one angry Irishman.
absolutely. And thanks for joining, Mark, the
Yeah, no worries,
cyborg.
man.
We got some people in our chat that
Hey, Shield Wall.
regulars that appreciate your appearance. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Shield Wall. Shield Wall. I got to meet at the Vegas FNT meetup that we're doing in April, so it is
Oh,
actually coming up this year. Wanna
fuck.
You wanna come party with
I
us
should,
in Vegas?
dude. Should I come?
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be sick.
should.
Make a lofty, a wild lofty appearance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, look, lots of people show up at them, and
That'd
yeah,
be
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, you will meet people that you will be surprised. You'll be like, "Oh man, this person's here. That's nuts."
Hey, that's what happened to me when I first went to CPAC. I was like, oh, I just went there to do a little bit of a job, like we're doing a recording, some interviews
Mhm.
with people, and then I ended up meeting fucking James O'Keefe, and I was like, well, okay now. And then I met a bunch of other cool people, but
Man, I'd be
yeah,
like,
that was
"Dude,
fun.
the gay dog park.
Yeah,
You mad lad."
yeah. James O'Keefe's cool.
If you
He's a nice
guys don't
guy.
know what I'm talking about, just search James O'Keefe. Oh wait, is James O Hold on, I'm thinking of the right guy, right?
Project Veritas,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, it is the
Yeah.
wrong guy. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the guy who did the journal study journals with Peter Boghossian. James
Oh,
Lindsay.
James
That's who it
Lindsay.
is.
I'm
Yeah.
friends with James. I'm actually pretty good friends with James Lindsay. He's funny.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
yeah.
His gay dog park thing was like the funniest thing I've
Yes.
ever heard. That
I
it was
talked with
submitted to
him
an
for about an
academic
hour
journal.
about the gay dog park thing and about his just his like obsession with like cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've talked with him a bunch of times at different events. He's all over the place. That guy's everywhere. But he's fun to get drunk with and just sit and chat. He's the same person on the internet as he is in real life.
Oh dear
It's
God.
wild. James Lindsay. Yeah, James Lindsay will just talk to you as like, and I think he knows my name and everything. Like he's very personable, and like he'll just talk to you for like hours and hours and hours. You know, it's
Yeah,
more fun if you
a
got
lot of people
if
know
you're at
my
a
name.
bar. because I would lose my attention span for that kind of political conversation is like pretty minimal unless I'm in like a bar setting where I can kind of drink and relax, and you know what I mean.
Mhm.
But
I think
other
I need to really know that I can get something out of a conversation with someone, because political arguments, especially when
yeah,
booze are involved, can just go off the rails so
it does.
easily.
It does.
And
It's a
before
waste
you
of
know it,
time.
you were just having a normal conversation. Next thing you know, it's like, yeah, well, fuck you too. And it's like, oh, dude, man, what? Like, I'm not voting for another 4 years. I swear.
All right. Well, chat, thank you for joining tonight, and I hope this one went better than the last. I had a dumb, stupid debate last time, and it didn't go very well. I was like talking to a brick wall, and I feel like I was just bad.
Well, I
But
think you and I always seem to be respectful of each other, even when we disagree. So,
oh hell yeah, hell yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna go get ready for Flaccid Phoenix's stream, guys. If you want to hop over, he's on there talking about stuff. Flaccid's channel. If you want to link that in the chat, mods or whatever. Sub to MarcTheCyborg, by the
yeah.
way, and stay tuned. Get your notifications, turn them on so you can come talk to Melanie Mack when she comes on. You guys can ask her questions. So that's probably going to be Thursday. If it's not this week, next week. She said she's coming on. We just got to pick a day, but it's usually going to be. Excuse me. I still have the flu. It's going to be Wednesday or Thursday, probably. Anyway. Oh my god.
My wife
Don't get the
eats the
flu.
same way Melanie does. They bond over meat and butter and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cute. All right. Good night, everybody.
Later, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, Mark. Bye bye.
Yeah, no worries, man.